So that is the community-based programming element is just as important as all the rest of the sanctions that we're going to talk about. This is a package deal. If we adopt one of those little things and you don't do all the rest of them, you are not going to see the savings and the improvement that you're looking for throughout the justice reinvestment process. And so that is what CSG has indicated to us in terms of if we only do a small piece of this, it is certainly not going to be as effective as if we look at it as a whole package. So let's talk about what the law actually states. And I will back up just a second. The community programming aspect, and again, I don't have to tell you this, but the community programming aspect is a very, very, very important element to this. And even in terms of cost, when you're looking at $7 per day per offender versus $70 in an incarcerated setting per day, we can do 10 times as much good, and we know that the community programming works way better than if you've got somebody in prison. But what does the law state? These are kind of the major points of the legislation. And some of you have heard about them, but we're going to go over them hopefully in depth. If I don't catch something that you're understanding, please stop me and we'll go through it. But we'll kind of go through the entire process of how this works. This deals with probation, but it also deals with post-release supervision as well. In a probation setting, we'll pick on Sean, for example. Sean is having trouble as a probationer, and we need to get his attention for compliance purposes. The swift and certain responses to offender noncompliance in the community is simply that. These are the quick dips that you've heard about, the 2 or 3 day jail sanctions that are there to provide a swift and certain sanction for a response. Some of your jurisdictions have already been implementing a lot of these things with the 60-day sanction that the court actually gives, but some of you aren't. This actually codifies a sanction that the court or the community corrections or the probation officer can actually do. So it is available by statute for all three of those folks. As far as the community corrections and court services are concerned, there is a waiver form that Sean would actually sign. He blows a curfew. You bring him in, you give him an opportunity to sign the waiver to do 2 or 3 day quick dip jail sanction. At that time, he can decide, well, either I want to go in, I admit to the violation, and I do my 2 or 3 days, I come back out, or do I want to roll the dice and go to a revocation hearing? Because that's exactly what happens. If the offender doesn't want to do the revocation or do the quick dip, you go on just like you normally do with the revocation process. So Sean decides to do the quick dip. So he can actually get a 2 to 3 day jail sanction as a result of that. So he does a weekend, comes back out. Does well on probation, but Sean can't stop using drugs. And so he comes up with a dirty UA. And this time, the probation officer has an opportunity again to either administer a quick dip or ratchet up to a graduated sanction, a little higher than what was done with the quick dips. So this is the second point of that, providing graduated sanctions options for the court. You've heard about the 120 and the 180-day sanction to Department of Corrections. Only the judge can actually do that. So quick dips are only available for court services and probation and the court, but the court then, of course, has to make that finding to send the offenders to prison for that 120 and the 180-day time period. So Sean can actually get 120 days at that time at the revocation, or he can get 180. And once he's sent, He's sent, he does his time, and he comes back and he has to be on community corrections. The statute specifically requires. So if you're on probation and you get a 120 or a 180, you're coming back to community corrections as per the statute. Yes? Great question. The question is, does DOC give drug treatment or any other treatment or programming during the time that they are doing this 120 or 180? The answer is no. This is a pure punishment type of sanction. They're not getting any programming. In fact, the logic is kind of twofold. One, because it's punishment, but the second, because Department of Corrections, they could on the 180, but on the 120, there isn't time to actually do a program. But this is in North Carolina, they don't even actually allow visitors during this time, which apparently has been pretty effective, because that's a pretty big deal when you're incarcerated. You don't get to have any visitors. And so I think they're kind of rolling that around idea as well. But this is a punishment sanction. This is, again, we're responding to non-compliance. But part of the situation with those graduated sanctions is that this is I kind of liken it to how many do-it-yourselfers are there in here? Have we got any? There's one do-it-yourselfer in here. Good. Well, then he'll understand the situation. If I come into my kitchen in the morning and it's leaking around the base, that's bad. Not just dripping out of the faucet, but if it's leaking around the base, that's bad. So I know I'm going to probably need to change the faucet out. I look at my toolbox, and all I have is a hammer. Things are not going to go well for me today. What do I need? I need another tool. Well, there's a little tool about this long. It has a little claw on the end of it, spring-loaded, called a basin wrench. And I can actually stick that underneath the sink, and I can loosen up those nuts and then pull out the faucet. There's also this other neat little thing that is like at Home Depot that it's about the same, but it's like a tube, and it's kind of a universal fit that all you have to do is just shove it up there and do the same thing. But I've got an extra tool for me. Same thing with 2170. These are now, the graduated sanctions are tools now, more tools for your toolbox to be able to do these type of things. Do we have, for example, is somebody not reporting, is that worth revoking them and sending them for 24 months? Is that worth it? Or maybe it's worth 120. So we're looking at trying to get the punishment to kind of fit the crime. Yes? Good question. The question that she has is, does the quick dips, do those violations actually apply to going forward on graduated sanctions that they waive? And our response is no. They've already admitted to that violation in the quick dip, and they've done their sanction at that particular time. So you would have to have another violation that would actually occur for another graduated sanction to kick in. That make sense? Okay.